Hey everybody, hopefully someone out there can see me. Mom, if you can hear me, see me, let me know. Hi Marilyn, how are you? I am getting my system set up here. Hopefully everything checks out. Give it just a minute before we get rolling. Is my hair purple? No, it's actually red. And let's see. The last time I went to the salon was in January, so that's like 6 months ago. And I just went last night, had it touched up. Good morning, Jean Bates. All right. This morning, I am going to make a glass lotus flower. Hopefully the volume's okay. If the background is too loud, if you can't hear me, just let me know. Let me know if the video is okay. I don't know if there's any lag. Just the lighting. Yeah, I got backlighting going on here. Well, hopefully my video speed is okay. Sometimes the internet can be really slow here. All right. So it's day 8 of the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen's annual fair, 87th annual fair. We are virtual, and it's been an interesting virtual fair so far. We've had great weather. Go figure. Isn't that the way? So today I'm going to demonstrate for you a glass lotus flower. There we go. So this is one that I put together ahead of time so that I could show you where we're headed. And I've got a variety of components that is made from. So give it a few more minutes here. Start my Instagram. And hopefully that doesn't slow us down. Hey everybody, I am Heather. I'm a glass blower with the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen, and today I'm going to demonstrate a glass lotus flower. This is our 8th day of our 9-day show. Usually it's in person and it's at Mount Sunapee Resort, but this year we couldn't do that. Everybody knows why. And we've had great weather this year. Usually it's not so great. It rains, especially on the mountain. So we've taken things online, and yeah, that's where we're at. It's new territory for us. So today, I'm gonna go live with some demos. Just give it another couple minutes before we get going. So if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to use the chat. I'll respond. And we're going to go for the next hour here doing some exciting things with fire and molten glass. So today's live demonstration will be how I make a glass lotus flower. This is the first time the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen has ever gone virtual with their fair. There's only been one other time in our 87 years where we had to cancel the show completely. So I'd say that this year is exceptional, and we didn't totally cancel it, but the format certainly does make things challenging and different. But hey, that's what life's all about. So in order to make this glass lotus flower, I go through many different steps. So the first step is to create some flat marini cane like this that I can turn into flower petals. This is not what I use, but this is definitely an example. So I go through probably a 2-hour process to make this long ribbon of glass. And it starts out as a ball, and then I smush it down, so I get a lot of different colors. And then I take this flat ribbon, and from there I start pulling these little petals from it. And in case you're wondering why I keep going up and down, that's because I've got 2 different platforms running here, so that I can reach as many people as I can. So I make all these tiny little petals like that. And then I also have to prepare a core that I can put all these tiny little petals on. So this is one example. I've done several experiments and have found a way that I can make a core that looks a lot like the center of a lotus flower, but I can draw it down very slim. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to use the chat box. So, I get this pile of petals, and then I start putting it all together. I've got my trusty little torch, which I love this thing. I don't know why I waited so long to get one. And then, of course, I've got my big torch here. So let's go ahead and fire it up. Good morning, Budding Tree Yoga. Good morning, Ginger Ninja Glass. And good morning, Jim needs a new username. I don't know, that one's pretty memorable. So if you're tuning into my YouTube live stream, I apologize for the lighting. It seems to have really washed out my flame, but you'll get the idea. And I've got to switch my glasses. I've been a member of the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen now for about, let's just say I joined in 2006. So, what, like 11, 12 years or so? I'm not even counting. And I've been blowing glass for probably around 23 years, a little bit more. And I am familiar with many different kinds of glass methods, and I really like flame working because I can do it anywhere, anytime. Let's see, Budding Tree Yoga says, "Hey, this is awesome. I haven't seen you work in a long time." Woohoo! Yes, yeah. So, my dear friend, I am doing a live demo for the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen's 87th annual Craftsman's Fair. Usually we are up at Mount Sunapee for 9 days where, the weather is anybody's guess. Could be thunderstorms, could be awesome sun, sweltering, who knows. But this year, due to obvious circumstances, we had to cancel our fair. So a lot of us definitely derive our incomes from that. So you can imagine how devastating to lose this fair is. So we've gone online, we've taken it virtual. You know, it's not the same, but it's something. And it allows us to reach more people around the nation, around the world, than we otherwise would have. So it's pretty unique in that sense for us. Jean Bates says, so how long does it take to make all of these? Well, that's a great question. So, you know, just to make one of these flat ribbon canes, that prep time for me, depending on the kinds of colors I use, depending on what's happening or how thick I make it, this could take 2 hours. And then from there to pull each flower petal off, that's probably like another, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes or so. Depending on what kind of flower I'm trying to make, that will determine how many petals I need. Also, the width of this cane will also determine how many flower petals I need. Budding Tree Yoga says, I think we met in 2006, didn't we? Yes, it was definitely at Corning. And, you know, I'm going to take you at 2006 because my memory's fuzzy. So I'm going to say you're right, Julie. 2006. All right, so I'm going to turn on my smaller torch here, my little torch. It really is called that. All right. There we go. This torch is so handy for so many things. A friend of mine, another glassblower out in Western Mass, he actually gave me my first hornet tip for this torch. I didn't have any. It doesn't come with this. This is, you know, a nice accessory that you have to buy separately. So it was really difficult to use the, you know, factory original equipment torch heads because they're super, super tiny. It's really meant for jewelry making. But my friend, Chris Hubbard, he gave me my first hornet tip. And, you know, I rocked that thing for years. It always had a tiny, tiny little pinhole leak in it. So this year, I finally upgraded. I invested in a piece of new equipment, you know, got this new hornet tip, and it is sweet. It's so nice. So I've reheated the core so that I can be sure that when I attach petals, everything's going to stay nice and warm. So this is really a sculptural piece. I guess I misled everybody by saying glassblowing, but you know, to me it's all the same. So I'll start by attaching a petal, just heating up the tip of this petal. And I'm putting it on. It's not on there so great, but that's okay. That's where all the work comes in. So I heat up this little blob, this little tip of the flower petal, and then I use my graphite tool to kind of mush it in so that it becomes fused. And then I use my little torch to get into all those tiny little cracks and crevices. And I'm really paying attention to how I'm holding this piece. So when the base of the flower gets hot, the flower petal starts to flip around. And I don't want it to stick to the center of the lotus. Who else joined us? Oh, hello, State 9. Hello. Oh, God, I can't read. Gaia Glass, hello. Man, I can't wait until my new glasses show up. Is it? Yes, yes, you are right. Gaia Glass, this is APM 2D. All right, let's hear it for the glass nerds. Woo! Yes, they don't make this torch anymore. This is made by Bethlehem out of Pennsylvania. This is an oldie but goodie. I bought it brand new back in the day, probably in 2006. And it's water cooled. You know, eventually I will buy a third torch because you can never have enough, right? N+1. It's just like bicycles, motorcycles. I will buy another torch, and it's probably going to be a GTT because I really like the heat that comes out of those. You can work really fast, but sometimes want a more gentle heat. Thanks, Budding Tree Yoga. It is a pretty sweet torch, although sometimes I just wish it was hotter. Gaia Glass. Damn, what a piece of history and a beautiful torch. Yes, yes, it is a piece of history. And, you know, if you come back tomorrow, I'm going to do a little studio tour Q&A, and I will show you some historic neon tools that I got from my uncle in January before, you know, pandemic struck. So let's see, got to put on this next petal. Trying to go at like a 30-degree angle here. So same thing, just heating up that little blob, rolling it in. I try to get things pretty well lined up. Sometimes it doesn't happen, and that's okay, because I can always come back later and tweak things. So again, just really getting the heat to sink into those cracks and crevices, get everything fused together. Let's see. Marilyn Wiska says, are there different settings on the Hornet torch? It looks like putting something so small into the heart of the flame would just melt it. Yeah, so really with the Smith Little torch, all I can do is control the oxygen and propane. Flame doesn't get much bigger than this. I can make it hotter. I can make it slightly shorter or longer, a little bit more forceful or less forceful. And when I use it, I'm close to the torch, the larger torch flame, but I'm not right in it. But it's nice because, you know, I can really do a lot more. Where the torch sits still, the little torch I can take all over the place. So I will pick up another petal, and you can't really see it, but just below my left hand, I've got my petals all set out in the order that I want to use it in. So I set everything up first. That way, when I pick things up, I know exactly where they should go. So I'm heating up that landing pad. Hands are a little shaky from coffee this morning. Stick it on, mush it in. Yeah. Heat it up. That's looking pretty good so far. Make some tiny adjustments. Give things a little flash here and there. Alright. What else we got happening here? Budding Tree Yoga says, what time is the tour tomorrow? Great question. 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday, August 9th. So tomorrow, the 9th, is the final day for the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen's virtual annual fair. So go to the website, link in my bio. There's a show schedule there if you want to see who all else. We've got a couple of other glassblowers doing demos as well. Budding Tree Yoga says, your kiln is huge compared to mine. I still have one of the Snodgrass 420 kilns. Nice. Yeah, this kiln is a Scut Scarab, and I love it. This was definitely an investment. I went for a number of years, probably like 15 years, rocking the same tiny, tiny little kiln that I had to control by hand. And, one year, I think it was like 3 years ago, I took my glass sales, and I said, I'm doing it. I'm investing in my equipment so that I can do more, work better, and it's awesome. I'm probably not even using half the capacity, but I don't care. It's luxury. I love it. I can set it and forget it. It's a beautiful thing. So this is what I've got going on so far. Perhaps I could have, gotten those petals to line up a little bit better, but it's all gonna come out in the end. So now I will start applying the next row. Maybe I could just get one of these, maybe two of these, just to scooch over just a tiny bit. Maybe. Let's see. Glass is just all one giant experiment. Sometimes things work, sometimes it doesn't. Oh yeah, that's nice. Just the tiniest little tweak can make all the difference. There we go. Now right now, maybe it doesn't look so much like a lotus. To me, it looks more like a trillium. But as we go through the process, it will transform. So before I add the next row of petals, I'm going to heat up these petals and just kind of tease them away from the area that I'm working in. That way, I've got room to work. Don't have to worry about getting stuck to anything that I don't want to get stuck to. Using gravity and my tweezers to help shape things along. Or that third petal. There we go. Okay. So you can see I've pulled petals a little bit closer. And now I will add on the next row. So one nice thing about setting my petals out before I light up the torch is that I can lay out the color scheme. I don't have to think about, oh, which way does this go when I go to stick it on. And I have done that, but it gets confusing and frustrating, so I found it's better to lay everything out first. And stick this on. Hands got a little shaky there, right as I attached it, always the way. Some people use little arm supports when they're working like this, which is really nice. I don't have one right now. That's okay. Whoop. Oh, that one got a little stuck. That's okay. Get that heat in there. Nice. And it helps if I avoid coffee, of course. So we'll stick on the next one. Got any questions, comments? Chat them out. Happy to answer any questions. Stick that one on. So a lot of what we do in glassworking is it's very focused, and I feel like there's a sense of meditation happening, mindfulness. You know, I'm not really thinking about anything else when I'm working on the torch most of the time. If I'm pulling stringers, okay, sometimes my mind drifts. But, you know, most of the time I'm really, really focused, so it's a nice break from all the mental chatter that's going on, especially these days. So I'll just heat up this petal a little, bend it ever so slightly. There we go. So I'm trying to attach these flower layers together pretty closely. If you've looked at a lotus in real life, there's not a lot of gap between each layer of petal. And, you know, obviously this isn't going to look totally realistic, but I do want to try to get it to look as realistic as I can. Put on the next one. Really fusing that glass together so that it doesn't break. And if you notice, I keep flipping up and down as I heat both sides, and that's for two reasons. One, so I can get the heat in there, but then two, so that I can keep the flower petal from falling over and sticking where I don't want it to. There we go. All right. So we've got the first layer on there. Now I haven't been flashing this whole thing super hard, so I should probably get a little more heat in there. Hello, Trisha 3. Hello, Hands in Glass. If you got questions, comments, use your chat box. Happy to answer any questions. So, you know, if this year the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen would have been able to go through with the 87th Craftsman's Fair at Mount Sunapee, you would have seen me live demoing a lot more every day. You would have seen me demoing every day. I probably would not have had this kiln with me because that thing is just a beast to move. It took 4 people to move it, to get it off the pallet and onto the bench. But I would have had my smaller one that I've had for 15 years, and I'd have this torch, and I was hoping that maybe I would have a lathe. That's in the works, not yet, but it will come. And I was hoping that maybe I could do some neon demonstrations as well. That is also in the works. So at this point, I want to put on the next layer. Well, actually, wait. You know what? Maybe instead of just jumping right to the next layer, I'll fix up these petals. So these petals are kind of long and wild and scraggly, and this is how the petal came off of this original flat cane. Granted, this is not the flat cane that I used to make these petals, but that's how they're made. So what I want to do is use my flame and a clear rod to trim these petals down a little bit. So it's just a matter of heating up the very tip of that flower petal, touching the glass rod to it, and just winding off that excess. So this whole technique of making flowers, flower petals, trimming the petals down, I learned from Cesare Tofolo. So for all you glass nerds out there, if you ever have the opportunity to study with Cesare, I highly recommend that you do that at least once in your lifetime. I think for any of us that have had the privilege, the honor to do so, it's a game changer. Hey JB Fine Art, nice to see you. Congrats on your award for the feather trio. That's pretty cool. JB Fine Art's another fellow League of New Hampshire Craftsmen member. Has a piece in the Art Craft Design exhibition, and she won an award. That's pretty cool. So be sure to check out all the various artists that are participating in this year's virtual fair. And I think Jocelyn's also doing some live demos. All right, so we've trimmed that down a little bit. And I can go back in at any time, trim that down a little more. This one flower here looks a little, or the petal I should say, looks a little funny to me, so I'm going to heat that. Use my torch to move it a little. There we go. Gotta coax the glass. So if at any point I'm doing this and my flower petals are starting to come too close to the center or they're getting stuck together, I could actually heat them up and then just spin this really fast. Centrifugal force will push the petals outward. So that's always a nice trick to remember. Hello, Upstream Glass. How are you? How's life in Montana? All right, let's do another layer. If you got questions, comments, feel free to use your chat box. All right, so this next layer gets a little tricky. Challenge is, how do I stick it on and hide any gaps and not get stuck to the petal above it? That is always the challenge. Use my tweezers to make some adjustments. Oh yeah, there we go. That's nice. Work that heat in. I love this little torch. If you don't already own one, you gotta get one. It's just so handy. For years I said, why do I need that? I don't need that. I got plenty right here. It is so hard to get into some of these cracks and crevices. This tiny little torch, it really makes a difference. Nice. So I will leave just a little bit of space so that I can come back later and kind of finesse everything. And every now and then I get confused about which petal am I picking up next. It happens. Okay, here we go. Gotta think about where am I going next. So I get that base hot, I get the end of the petal hot. Touch it on, push it on. Heat up the bottom. And then just roll that petal in. I don't really get too concerned about how the bottom of this looks because I'll end up taking a lot of the bottom off. The core, if you will. Don't need it. There we go. The whole time I'm constructing this, I'm looking at it. How is it lining up? Where is it going? Am I going off center? What's happening? That's what's going through my mind the whole time. All right, next petal. Trying to decide which side do I put it on. And here we go. So when I initially tag that petal on, I am using the back of my tweezers because I have so much heat in that moment, I might as well take advantage of it. So I use the backs of my tweezers just to push it on and make sure it's a little bit more permanent. There. Well, it's been ages since I flashed this thing, so here we go. That core is really cold right now. I can see some of the purple at the tip of it. And when I start adding all these petals, it makes it harder for the heat to get back into the core. So I have to be very mindful, thoughtful about how I'm heating this. The other challenge is to keep any of the petals from falling over on themselves. So let's stick another row on. Whoops! Slippery. Alright, there we go. Get that heat in there. And just see the glass coming together. Awesome. Adjust the angle of that. There we go. And another petal. You guys get the idea. So if you like the idea of meditation and glass, I've been teaching a glass and yoga class for a couple years now. Unfortunately, all of my classes and events for 2020 have been canceled. The good news is that some of them have been rescheduled for 2021. So in those classes, I offer a class that focuses on making mandalas, repetitive circular patterns that represent the universe. We have yoga, we have stretch breaks, we have journal breaks, all kinds of stuff to keep creativity flowing. So it doesn't matter if you're new to glass, new to yoga, it is a class for everyone. And you can make these mandalas into anything that you want, which is really cool. You can turn them into pendants, you can, make them into magnets. You can incorporate them into a larger piece of work. You could really, really do anything that you want. So I've got this space here. A couple of flowers are just a little too close together before I can add the last one. So I'm just adjusting to make space. There's another one that needs a little tweak. That one got a little too tweaked. Okay, now I can add that last one. There we go. Getting everything equally hot, and there we go. Joining it. Soaking in that heat, really fusing it in there. nice. Give it a little adjustment. There we go. So this is what we have so far. Got to give this a flash. I'm starting out at the back of the flame. That's where it's the coolest. The flower has cooled off quite a bit. And I can see right in the middle of this core where I've been heating and attaching all the petals, the core has fallen off center a little bit, but I don't think that really matters. Again, I'll be taking off the excess that's behind all of these petals, so it won't matter. Just like, I'm going to shut this little torch off, don't need it. So just like I did on the top level, I will trim these flower petals. And I'll probably end up trimming them twice. So the first time is kind of a rough pass cut, if you will. And then the second time is a fine tuning. And I have to try to hold this pretty vertically. Because if it's on such an angle, I end up trimming the flower at an angle, which is not exactly what I want. So before I go too much further, I'll just go in and make any adjustments to the top set. Trimming and shaping. So when I pull these flower petals off of that flat ribbon cane, some pull really nicely and some pull kind of unevenly, and that just has to do with the thickness of the glass that I start out with, the kind of glass that I'm using, my heat, my speed when I pull. The reason for doing all this trimming is so that the tip of the petal is thin and not so blobby. So when glass gets hot, it just wants to ball up on itself. But, you know, in nature, flower petals don't have these round blobby ends. And I just want to shape up some of these petals just a little bit. Well, that's looking lovely. so hard to aim at the webcam. There we go. Much easier to aim at the iPhone. Coming along nicely. So now I'll do the same to that lower level. Trim it down just a touch. Making the petal look a little bit more realistic. And another thing that I'm doing is also shaping the petal a little bit at the same time when I remove that excess. Just by very slowly lowering my left arm. A couple more. That one's getting a little too warm. Move just a touch from this one. Then I want to fix the angle of this one right here. It's pretty twisted. Not quite what I want. There we go. So one thing that I can do to help with the shaping is to get all the lower level petals equally hot. And I can just start spinning. And the petals will fall away just a little bit. And then I can just go upside down. And then they start to fall a little bit. There we go. So this is what we've got now. So there's still a little bit of a gap, but that's okay. Marilyn Wiska says, was the color in the glass or is the heat creating the colors? That's a really good question. So some of this glass that I've used has a combination of silver and germanium in it. And what happens when the glass is exposed to glass that has the silver and germanium, when it's exposed to a high oxygen ratio, the glass will actually start to change colors. So kind of a pink, purple, magenta comes to the surface. Which is really cool. Now, not all colors do that. Most do not do that. I'm noticing that this is just a little bit off center, so I'm trying to get the heat in the center of that core so I can get it back on center. Just a little pause maybe. So most of these colors are what you see is what you get kind of colors. So I've used a lot of blue, different shades of blue, some transparents, some opaques. I've got in the stock some yellows and oranges. I've mixed up some of my own colors. So this is not the same flower, but, and the lighting's not great in here, but this is kind of what the colors will look like when the hot one comes out of the kiln. So a lot of blue. I really thought the blue lotus was quite interesting. So for anybody on this live stream who likes to sculpt in glass, I cannot overemphasize the use of pictures, reference pictures. So helpful. So helpful in, you know, keeping true to your design, even if it's just a sketch. Pushing down these flower petals a little bit more, trying to close up that gap that's created when we add these different layers of petals. And one more, I think. Yeah. That's quite nice. Now I could probably go on and on and on and on all day long. Hello, League of New Hampshire Craftsmen, and League of New Hampshire Craftsmen Hooks It. So this is the lotus flower, and you know, for the last big hurrah, I will take this flower off of the punty in my left hand. And by doing that, I can flatten the bottom. And I could say, okay, this flower is a sculpture all on its own. Maybe I make a whole bunch and they all sit in a group. Or I could save this flower for later and I could attach it to something else. That's the really cool thing about working with hot glass. You can make components that can be annealed and then used at a later date for whatever you want to do. So right now I am heating up right behind the lower level petals, and I am taking off some of this excess. There we go. Woo! Woohoo! That's hot glass right there. Woohoo! And I'll take off just a little bit more excess. Heating up the base, peeling off the excess. And that sound is the sound of hot glass in water breaking off. So now I'm just heating up the bottom, getting everything uniform. I'm going to grab my tool that I didn't think I needed today. My handheld marver. League of New Hampshire Craftsmen Hooks It says you're streaming live in our gallery. Well, hey, that's cool. Thanks. Thanks, Denise. And I just give that little push, little shape. So tomorrow I will do a surprise demo. And I'll do some Q&A, little studio tour. If you have thoughts about what you might want to see, drop me a note in the chat. Let me know what kind of things do you want to see me demo. There are things I can and things maybe I can't demo tomorrow. given our time constraints. But give me some ideas. I'll just give this one last little push. There. So from here, I've left this base relatively flat. It does kind of angle and come to a point. So I would be able to add a little dab of glass to the bottom here, which I could then use to attach to something else. Or, you know, if I want to leave it as is, it just takes me another, you know, I could, after it's come out of the kiln and I make that decision that it's going to sit flat, I can pop it back in the kiln and then flatten the bottom. So I am undecided. I think I'm going to use this piece in something else eventually. So I'm just going to leave this bottom as it is. Give it a little flash here. So that's what the bottom looks like. And once I, you know, attach this to something else, then I can continue to fuss with the flower petals. So I'm going to take this off. Got my handy grabbers here from Nate Myers. And tap, 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 and it's done. So this time I will use a little torch, get in there, polish that star, and it's done. And there we have it. Woo! Hot lotus. Yeah, going in the kiln. Sweet. And that, my friends, is how you make a glass lotus. So thanks for joining. Come back tomorrow, 11 a.m., 12 p.m. We'll do a little surprise demo, a little studio tour with the Q&A. And be sure to check out all of the other glass artists and wood turners and fiber artists and all my fellow craftsmen who are working to put our wares out to carry the legacy of craft. Go check out League of New Hampshire Craftsmen. Link is in the bio. And a big shout out to all of the staff with the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen for all of the technical, the back end, and all of the efforts that it takes to pull this off. Thank you so much. Thanks, Justin. Have fun, everybody. Support local artists. Buy our work.